Welcome, everyone. My name's Austin. I'm your Flashpoint facilitator. Welcome to Flashpoint TV. Manifesting the moment of your big breakthrough is our theme. I want to welcome in everyone listening on YouTube, Facebook, Apple TV, Amazon, Roku, wherever you're listening, whenever you get this. I want to welcome you to our show today. And we have a special presentation today. We are going to be diving into Joseph Campbell. Some of you may know Joseph Campbell. Some of you are hearing his name for the very first time, but he spent many years, I'm going to get into this, and he discovered the hero's journey. He wrote many books, The Power of Myth, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. As a matter of fact, George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, read one of his books and was the inspiration behind the blockbuster hit Star Wars. We have our spokesperson, Mandy Robinson, is going to be joining us. We have a special guest, Jose Escobar, is going to be joining us at the end of the program. We are loaded and ready to go. Let's kick the show off. I want to welcome you in today because without you, it really doesn't matter. So let's welcome in you and let's dial into the present moment. And that's the first thing we want to do is focus on the present moment. The hourglass is the symbol we use as a consistent reminder every show that no matter what has happened, it's happened. I don't want you to dwell there anymore. I want you to stop beating yourself up. Give yourself time, space, and grace. What's done is done. If you want to reflect to learn, by all means, go for it. But we don't want to use the past as a club to beat ourselves up. The future hasn't happened yet, right? This is what's happening. The future has yet to happen. So here's the thing. We don't want to worry about the future. We want to create visions, dreams, and big ideas. Yes, but we can't live in a state of worrying about what's going to happen. Well, we can, but it's not good for your nervous system. And so the only thing we can do is dial into the present moment, which is right here. So I welcome you in to that present moment. The next thing we highlight is the Thomas Edison light bulb. And the Thomas Edison light bulb is a constant reminder that, failure is not a permanent thing. Failure even doesn't mean we're a failure. That's what I thought for many years. Like if I fail, it's attached to my identity. But Thomas Edison brought a whole new light and perspective to the meaning of failure. I did not fail 10,000 times. I successfully created 10,000 ways in which the light bulb cannot be created. So we will use this throughout the show to highlight ideas, things that come up. And then last but not least, we have the cowbell. And the cowbell is kind of just a fun thing that we do at this point. But that's the beginning of the show. So let's jump in. I have prepared a lot of content for you today. And by the way, I'm going to share a little graphic here I'm going to get back into Joseph Campbell right now and the hero's journey. Let me share that graphic with you right now. Now, we're not going to dive deep into the hero's journey today, but I want to bring it to your attention because that's what Joseph Campbell is known for. The call to action, the mentorship, the trials and tests, and the abyss. And I really like to focus on the abyss because what I liken it to is that when we feel at our lowest and we're in the darkest place, we're not weird. Nothing's wrong with us. It's a part of the journey. It's a part of the hero's journey. It's a part of our journey. And understanding this, we understand that there's a next moment. There's an opening. There's an awakening. There's a flashpoint, a big breakthrough. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to grab the lessons from Joseph Campbell, some key lessons and perspectives that he learned from his journey. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask Mandy to join us here Mandy, I'm going to ask you to join us in the green room. And what we're going to do, if you're just joining, I'm going to be sharing with you a series of sound bites from Joseph Campbell. It was an interview done in the late 70s, early 80s. The interviewer is a guy by the name of Michael Toms. He's a radio host for many years. He had a great relationship with Joseph Campbell, spent many hours as friends and on this particular program. So what I did is I grabbed some sound bites that we're going to share, we're going to reflect upon to go deeper to understand what we can take away from the hero's journey. So first of all, let me welcome Mandy. If you're ready to join us. All right, here we go. Mandy, welcome to today's show. How you feeling today?
Good afternoon, Austin. Ready to rock and roll as always. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yes. I'm welcoming our guests today.
Yes.
And as we dive into this content.
Beautiful content.
Really go. Now, I just want to ask you, did you hear about Joseph Campbell prior to this? Did you know about him before?
I knew of him, but not into the depth that I've gone into him recently.
Okay, great. So we're going to get your insights because you did some research on your own. We're going to share the sound bites, but I want to maximize our time here. Mm-hmm. So Mandy, if it's okay with you, did you want to say anything before we jump right into the content?
Well, I'm very excited and happy to be here. Happy to welcome everybody here as well. And I do know, I'll just start on the Joseph Campbell part, because he was also not just a prolific writer, a great prolific author. He also was famous for his quotes. And the one quote that really stood out to me, which I think surmises everything that we're going to dive into, he said this: "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And that basically is about a battle of struggle with the truth of who we are and who we can become. So that's where we're starting from. It's very exciting. He has a wealth of insight and information that touches every part of your life if we can take the lessons from it. So this is going to be very exciting.
Yes, thank you for that quote. That's one thing I did not put in here, so I'm glad you grabbed that. Mm-hmm. That quote is powerful. And a couple other things before we jump into the content. I want to point out that what really fascinated me about Joseph Campbell is that in 1929, he was in Paris studying. He came back from Paris 2 weeks prior to the crash. He then spent the next 5 years of his life reading for 9 hours a day.
9 hours a day. Can you imagine?
And there's a clip in here, which I'm going to highlight something that goes even a little bit deeper into this, the perspective of a man who took the quote, "Follow your bliss," to heart and live, because that's the sub-theme here. We're going to talk about the lessons from Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, and the sub-theme is follow your bliss.
Totally.
So let's dive into the content. Mandy, I'm going to share the first section here is could be called, I was thinking about the titles, could be called Dark Places, or I'd rather more appropriately titled, How Each Person Must Find Their Way. So let's take a listen to this, and Mandy and I will come back and share what we think about it.
Joseph, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. As always, pleasure to be with you.
It's good to be with you as well. Joseph, in the introduction, I referred to the darkest places in the forest of society. And perhaps a good place to start is to recall that those dark places have always been with us down through recorded history, haven't they?
They have indeed. And those are what are symbolized, actually, in the Forest Adventurers of the Grail. And there's a wonderful statement in The Quest of St. Graal. That's the version of the romance in which Galahad figures. The knights are challenged by Gawain to go in quest of the Grail, to behold it unveiled. And the text says they decided to do so. But they thought it would be a disgrace to go forth in a group. Each entered the forest at a place that he had chosen, where it was darkest and there was no way or path. As to say, each must find his own path. Following a path, you're following someone else's destiny. And one of the great, I think, spiritual insights of the peculiarly European Western tradition is that each of us has his own destiny and just doesn't run along an already mapped out track.
So often we see those dark places as huge problems in our life, whether we view our life as an individual or our role in the overall society. And we relate to it as a problem as opposed to an opportunity. What does mythology say about that?
Well, I would say that mythology tells us that where you stumble, that's where your treasure is. There are so many examples, for example, in the Arabian Nights, of someone, let's say, plowing a field, and his plow gets caught, and then he digs down to find what caught it, and it's a ring of some kind. He hoists the ring, and down below is a cave with all of the jewels in it. And so it is in our own psyche. Our psyche is the cave with all the jewels in it. And it's the fact that we're not letting their energies move us that brings us up short. And so it is. The world is a match for us, and we're a match for the world. And where it seems to be most challenging is where the greatest invitation lies to find deeper and greater powers in ourselves.
So we need to push ourselves.
Right.
Wow. So right off the bat, that gives a lot of perspective. And I'm going to give you some time here, Mandy, to process that. And really just want to highlight this because Joseph Campbell spent his bliss was studying mythology. And King Arthur and the knights, and that visual of the Holy Grail, and then each knight being tasked to go and seek for it, but not by following another path, by following the individual's path. And this really spoke to me in preparation for this. And then also talking about, which really plays off of what the Stoics used to say, is the obstacle is the way.
That's right. That's right.
These themes here, follow your own path, the obstacle is the way. What did you take away, Mandy, from this soundbite?
Wow, this was absolutely, I got goosebumps right from the word go, because I love thinking about Arabian Nights and Knights of the Round Table and all that era. It's classic in British history. So when he gave that illustration of the Arabian Knight who was plowing the field and something got stuck in the plow, he pulled out a ring, decided to dig deeper, and found jewels in the cave. And he brought out the point that the world is a match for us, and we are a match for the world, but we have to dig, we have to find, we have to recognize those stumbling blocks, like the plow got caught in that ring. There are times in our life that are going to catch us unawares, and we're going to wonder what the heck has hit us, right? But if we dig through those points in time, the greatest treasures lie beneath. And I think what was really, really good about that, as you just brought out, that each knight took a different path because it was a different journey. It was their own unique journey. And whether it was into the darkness, into the forest, whatever it was, they went individually. And I think this is a good metaphor for us to not compare ourselves with others. We fall down on that many, many times, myself included. And this is the whole premise behind Joseph Campbell, that we are unique individuals. We have unique journeys, and it's up to us as individuals to recognize those journeys, recognize the ups and the downs, journey through them, get through all the obstacles like fear and doubt and, self-limiting beliefs, etc., transform and come out victorious. So I thought that was very powerful.
I think it is very powerful, especially in today when we're tasked with, we're looking for mentors, we're looking for coaches, but ultimately, even what I say is I'm a facilitator, because I want to facilitate you to take that step to blaze your path. And here it's personified in this mythological story that you just embodied. So really embracing your journey. And I like what you said, avoid the comparison, because how many times are we comparing ourselves with others, and then we're
weighed down? We become weighed down even more
down by the comparison of others, instead of going, wait, I am supposed to find my path,
That's right.
and there are going to be obstacles, and that obstacle may be the way, like the plow, And that's really interesting. You think about that visual of somebody plowing and then deciding to dig deep, and all of a sudden there's these treasures down there.
Well, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, I think when you said this so eloquently, is like dig deep in here. This is where the treasures are. It's in each of us, and that's the key.
That's why our DNA is different. That's why no human being has the same thumbprint. We're all unique in so many ways. And I also thought of, I can't remember what this instrument is called, but it's the person you see on the beach after the crowd has left, and they've got the long instrument with the circle on the bottom, and their
metal detector.
Metal detector, that's it. And that's the one. I can never remember the name of that for some reason. But anyway, some of the greatest treasures, even locally here, have been found. Some amazing fossils have been found with metallic pieces in them. So it's that digging deep. It's peeling back the layers of your life, addressing each layer and transforming it into what you want to become. And again, it's about dreaming into the future. What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? What do I want to become? And focusing on that as the goal.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We want to keep
Yes.
time with you. So that's gold already. What does the next one have to say? Here we go.
Is a totally new statement, really. So it is in living life every day.
Sometimes we're afraid of the new. The new is almost like a threat to our well-being. And that's kind of the way it's been down through the ages, hasn't it?
Right, and you're also afraid of being criticized. It's a sticking your neck out. That's what life is. And this is what every minute requires. And in any kind of creative work, painting, writing, music composition, or inventive action, you're sticking your neck out. And the symbol of the Star of David, the two triangles. Well, this symbol occurs also in the Sanskrit tradition in India, and it's placed in the center of the heart. And what it represents is the upward pointed triangle effort to move toward the spiritual call of the new innovating experience. And the other represents the inertia that calls you down to what was done before and the way it was done before. And it's that new thing that's life. Life is always new. There's a growing point. And where you're not at the growing point, you have become more or less a robot. That's the wasteland. People living not in terms of innovative thinking, but in terms of how it was done successfully before.
So I cut this one off right there because there's a lot right there that I want to hear what you have to say, Mandy. But you know what I want to say? The interviewer, right after that point, he point blank asked him, he said, "Joseph, have you ever worked for money?" And without hesitation, he said, "No." He said, "I never," and by the way, I did some research. I'd have to double check this number, those of you who are Joseph Campbell fans, but what I saw is that his net worth was $8 million when he passed. So this is a really interesting thing here to really draw out in that. And by the way, remember I talked about 1929? Mm-hmm. So this was right after the Great Depression. He was reading 9 hours a day. He didn't have to work. He said, "I never worked for money." Now, he did say, well, if I had a family, that might have been different, but it was me. And I realized there wasn't a whole, it was easy to take care of me. He's like, if I had a family at that time, it might have been different. But that particular juncture in his life, he didn't work for money. And then when asked later, he never worked for money. And I just found that fascinating. And I found that just embodying what he studied and that follow your bliss. Mandy.
That's right. Because if you are following what is coming from the heart center, your passion, your bliss, what you are born to do, your purpose, your mission, and you're not thinking about the material things like money, and you're coming from this place of service to others, you've got all this wonderful stuff, I call it, inside of you to share with the world, and you come from that place, then everything else will fall before you. It's putting all that aside and being here to serve others. And that's what Joseph Campbell did. And one of the good points he brought out there was we often cave under the fear of criticism.
Yes.
And I don't like to use that term criticism because immediately it puts people's backs up. Oh, you know, who are you to talk down to me or whatever? I like to think of it as constructive feedback. Constructive feedback. So if we're afraid of constructive feedback, then we're never going to grow. We're never going to learn. And we're never going to step out of the comfort zone, which he spoke about, sticking your neck out into inventive action. You can't follow your bliss if you're sitting back in fear and doubt of being criticized and not wanting to take action. Action happens outside of the comfort zone. And then he spoke about the Star of David and the Sanskrit in India, this center of the heart, which is the moving towards the new experience. Again, it's all about action. And then he said, I love this, love this. If we are not taking inventive action and moving into new experiences, we are not living in innovative thinking. We're actually living in a wasteland.
That is a powerful visual. And I've listened to this over and over again in preparation for this. And it is a powerful visual that it's wasteland.
Yeah.
If we're not innovating, and we talk about that in Flashpoint as the uncertainty threshold, is the consistent awareness that I need to be getting out of my comfort zone. My brain wants to, follow the same pathways. My body wants to go on autopilot, but I'm not fulfilled. And that's why this message, to hear it over and over again, is so valuable, to do something different and to blaze a new trail. So this is great. So I'm going to jump into the next section.
Awesome.
Which you can see the theme here as we're weaving this through. Each person must find their own way, being willing to act in spite of the criticism, sticking your neck out to follow your bliss. And now let's hear this section number 3. I think this is going to be even weave it in a little deeper.
Are really questions that go to a deeper root that lies in mythology, in the mythology of the world.
Well, the value of mythology in the old traditions, one of the values was that every activity in life had been mythologized. You saw something of its relevance to the great mysteries and your own participation in the great mysteries in the performance, in agriculture, in hunting, in military life, and so forth. All of these were turned into spiritual disciplines. Actually, they were. There were rituals associated with them, which let you know what spiritual powers were being challenged and evoked and brought into play through this action. Well, now, as I said before, our society has changed so fast that we have not had chance to find what we're doing. And consequently, it's up to every single individual in his own life to analyze his psyche in relation to his life task. And if he finds it isn't working, well, then getting an income from that task isn't worth it. You've got to risk in order to find life. And people go into a work just thinking, well, this will make money for me, not thinking, gosh, this is what has inspired me to life action. They have to face it in the end and find some fighting way to turn that work into a creative experience.
Again, we're hearing this theme of working for money, and if it's not filling up your soul, it's that wasteland. And this is not easy, by the way. I don't want
No, it's not.
It's not like here we're like, oh yeah, just because he talks about you have to find some way. And he called it a fight. Like he used the word fight, the struggle to get to that place. So by no means is this easy, and it's not a switch. It's a process, and it can be a difficult process. But if you're hearing this, you might be more painfully aware that this is you we're speaking to, and that you are craving this, and you found this show for a reason. Mandy.
And that's what he brought out about mythology, right? We speak about the heroes in mythology. You know, the hero that goes off on a journey, goes through all these struggles, gets taught by mentors or teachers, and then finds a way to learn a lesson, transform, and goes home again. But he spoke about mythology showing us the lessons through history of actual people's lives. History has been riddled with these lessons. For example, in the hunting scene, military scene, rituals, spiritual disciplines. And that's a really good phrase, I think, to use about the insight and the learning and the growth and the lessons we need to learn to move into transformation. It's a discipline. And what does discipline involve? It involves action. Action. We don't repeat what we just did. We take action to move forward from that and grow. And he said, use it as a chance to find our way, a great opportunity. So analyze the psyche of our past. What has stopped us? What has halted us in our tracks and kept us stuck and makes us feel like we're living a life in a wasteland? And this is where thinking, changing the way you think, right? Thoughts become deeds, as it were. So analyzing the psyche, what isn't working, and if it's not coming from your passion, what you feel inspired to do, doesn't matter how much money you think you're going to get, it's not going to come because you're not living from a place of taking risk. And that's the other point that he also brought out. So it's a constant evolution of examining what's in here, changing the way we think, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, finding the lesson of growth and moving forward by taking a risk. And that's how that's how it becomes the flashpoint, right?
Yeah, and I just want to share, it's a perfect example of that self-assessment, we call that. And that's the 9 questions here I'm putting at the bottom. So if you're on the social media platforms, if you're on Apple TV, Amazon, Roku, wherever you're listening, we're going to actually get a QR code in the future. But for now, it's at https://9q.yourflashpoint.com. 9q.yourflashpoint.com. You can get the 9 questions and start to dive into this work and really start to uncover and what's holding you back. You know, what is it? What's preventing you from living the life you know you're capable of? What is it? Anyway, there's another piece of this, which I'm not sure we're going to get to here, but it's a part of mythology that I heard when I studied this. It talks about when we're younger, we're like a camel, and we're loaded up. And we're loaded up with all the stuff. So metaphorically speaking, we're loaded up with information, knowledge to prepare us for life. And then as we grow as the camel, we're transformed into the lion. And we're transformed into the lion to slay the dragon. And the dragon has all these scales. So the dragon's loaded with scales. You've now transformed from the camel into the lion, and the lion must fight the dragon. And the dragon's scales are wrought with thou shalt. So think about this. And then when the lion slays the dragon, the lion transforms into a child again.
Goosebumps. Oh,
a powerful metaphor.
Powerful.
Of when we're transformed into the lion and we're fighting the dragon that's made up of thou shalts. And by the way, this is not to symbolize that you're violating your moral code, but it's to symbolize imagine just an explosion where all the false pretenses of how you're supposed to live, or somebody telling you how you're supposed to live, are obliterated in the slaying of the dragon, and then you transform from the lion back to the child, where everything is joyful and beautiful and present.
And that's why, I know I harp on the scriptures a lot, but that's why Jesus said, unless you become like a child, you will not enter the kingdom of God. Because a child is pure, free, innocent. They've got no fears, no restrictions. They don't see prejudice. They don't see violence. They're caring, they're loving, they're kind to, you watch a little child play on a beach or in the back garden. It's incredible. So when we lose that as we grow through all that information and the mentors and the peer pressure through life, etc., we lose that. We lose sight of that. And until we've gone back through all of that and dissolved the layers and got back to how it is to be a child, we're going to stay in that wasteland.
Yes, and he speaks about that in the interview. Yeah,
oh,
Joseph
wow.
talks about that extensively. But what I want to share is this slaying of the dragon. These 9 questions may be your first step into slay that dragon of the known and unknown limiting beliefs of thou shalt, you're supposed to live this way, it's supposed to be that way. And there's these limiting beliefs that are lurking beneath the surface. And the 9 questions are a guide. That's all it is. If you're going down that path, if you're choosing your own path, as we talked about earlier, the 9 questions may be a light. It may be a light that you're going to bring with you so you can see the limitations and circumvent them and get around them. Mandy, how are we doing? Oh, go ahead.
We're doing great. We're at 12:34. Campbell also used that. I've lost my train of thought now. Done. The path, the journey. What did you just say prior to that? What did you just say?
I was talking just about the slaying the dragon and the limiting beliefs and the 9 questions. Using the 9 questions as a light to guide us to remove.
That's right. And you also spoke about mentors, and that's the point I was going to make. Campbell, in his reference to mythology and people in life, there's always, for the hero, there's always a teacher, a facilitator, a coach,
yes,
a pastor. There's somebody that can help us along that journey. So I think this is very good and very powerful for what you're doing with the 9 questions. That's it. I just lost my thought.
It's okay. We're going to go now. Let's move on. We got, let's see. That was section.
We're on number 4 now.
We're on number 4. Thank you, Mandy, for keeping me on point here. All right. Number 4, perhaps one of my favorite ones. Let me just remove the banner so we can get the full picture of number 4. And here we go.
Here we go.
Realize first that the human being is a biological phenomenon himself. He's a product of nature. And he has this body, which is like the body of the grass or the trees, a product of this good earth. And on the other hand, in contrast to the trees and the grasses and the little bugs, he has this great brain up here, which has a structuring character that is not that of nature. It has its own almost mathematical kind of thinking. Rational thinking is, let's say, rectangular, whereas the body thinking is circular. These are the 2 kinds of consciousness that are right in us. One is that which the Indians call the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the sheath of wisdom, the wisdom that's digesting our meals, and that brings the grass up, and that we share with the whole world of nature. But then there's this Manomaya Kosha, this intelligence of the brain, which has plans for how life should be. And it's not always the way life wants to be. So there's a conflict between these 2 worlds. Now, the tendency in our culture, you see, is to be more and more of this mathematical organization instead of the organic. And the interaction between these 2 is what keeps us civilized and harmonious human beings. Now, the 2 things to be said. One is, in the wilderness is the salvation. Yes, if that's wiped out, we're nothing but mechanical. But the next thing is that the whole function of myth is to unite these 2 orders of our nature. The mental nature, the waking consciousness nature, and that thing that takes over in sleep. When people have nightmares, it's principally because they have been repressing the biology, and it comes up with a vengeance. The deity that is disregarded turns into a devil, becomes negative. And nature then becomes feared if it has been suppressed long enough and you're out of accord with it, because of course it always is going to break up the quadrangular mode of planning that you've had for your life. Falling in love, there's nature coming, and my God, it's a wreck of many a program.
Yeah.
And the nature world, the wilderness world, it's a wonderful thing to meet, but then we've got to have the other one too, you see.
Yeah.
There we go. So that's a deep one, even though it's talking about like getting balance back with nature. It talks about the suppression of, when we're living up here, there might be a suppression of the natural part of us. And if we don't allow it, if we don't recalibrate, if we don't rebalance, it can, like he mentioned, such powerful language, the deity turns into the devil.
Mhm.
That really is deep and emphatic. So Mandy, what I want to do is I want to keep our reflection short because I have a video that I want to share that where
Sure.
I kind of expanded on this. But what do you have to say about the part of nature in this?
That nature, again, is our greatest teacher, right? We are a product of nature in our physical bodies, but that doesn't keep us alive. We have this other consciousness, which is the consciousness of the intelligent brain that keeps us living and how life wants us to be. So if we combine the two consciousness, the wisdom and the intelligence of the brain and the structure of the body, then we can function in a way that unites us all and gets rid of what we've suppressed over the period of time of our life. So the two work in harmony is what we're trying to say here, and they can't work irrespective of each other to be successful.
Yes, absolutely. So what I'm going to do here, I have a something queued up for us. I want to expand on this, because what we do here, I want to bring the experience to you, not just a talking head. So here we go. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. By the time you're getting this video, you would have heard Joseph Campbell's reflection on getting back to nature. I thought it would only be appropriate if I brought that experience to you, and the wind is kicking up and I'm just going to allow it to happen because it's interesting. The wind has been quiet up until this point when I'm recording. So we say trust what shows up and do your best to stay with it. So I trust my sound is good. I am in the middle of Wissahickon Valley in a place called Houston Meadow. You can see behind me it's barren, gray, brown, but in about 30 to 40 days, if not sooner, this place will start to bustle with life. The green will come back, the wildlife will start to awake from its winter slumber, and life will be buzzing and popping again. But that doesn't mean we can't connect with it anytime throughout the year, and I think that's the call here. And I want to go a little deeper on the connection with nature because it can mean so much. If we start out with the surface level, the call here is to get back to nature. You may say, well, hold on, Austin, I'm not a nature person. But I would offer to you that we are all connected to nature in some way. And I would encourage you to connect with nature in a way that's suitable for you. For example, for you, it may just be going into your backyard and just seeing what you can observe out there in terms of the wildlife, the trees, the wind blowing through. And just give it a chance. For those of you that are more in tune with nature, you know what I'm talking about. And let me just provide you with some context that you can dig into. There's been much research on what's called the Schumann Residence. And not to go too far down the rabbit hole here, but the Schumann Residence is that the Earth has its innate low, deep frequency. Consider it the rhythm of life in some respects. There's more research coming out that when we connect to that, it can have health benefits. Now, as you're listening to me, we're on a digital platform. We spend our time, especially in the winter, inside. We're in front of a screen most of the time. There might be electromagnetic field. There's electric devices everywhere. And we get a lot of value from that. We get information, we get to connect with people. It serves its value. But again, I would offer to you that we need the opposite energy. We need to reconnect with nature. It's a way for me to connect with Source and my Creator. But I will go back to what I said earlier. What is best for you? What is the best way for you to reconnect with nature? Maybe you want to write that question down and revisit it later. The other thing about nature is in the hero's journey, it can represent going into the unknown. embracing the uncertainty. So for example, some of you, going out into nature is scary. There's bugs, there's snakes, there's different things out there, so it can be scary. And as he mentioned, I believe in the little snippet, that we want to get more familiar with it. We want to make it a friend. We want to connect with it. And then we can get to create that contrast, the balancing of energies, to know the city and to know the country, to know the forest, and to let that contrast translate into our own lives and see how it can speak to us. So for some of you, this is just to simply get back into nature. Maybe it's with your family, a friend, maybe it's solo. For some of you, maybe nature represents it's finally time for you to embrace some uncertainty. Maybe you're feeling that nagging discontent that you know you want more. I want you to step into this and really let it speak to you today, and really make it an intention for you to reconnect with nature. Breathe in the air, create some presence, and really let it speak to you. Connect, and even if you don't believe in the science or the Schumann Residence, but how does it make you feel when you get a moment of still, quiet, and there's the wind again? So I think I'm going to end this right now. I'm going to give you a moment just to take in this, take a breath, be present, and then we'll get back to the show. Thanks for joining. And I just got to say, it has not been windy at all today until I started this recording. The wind through those leaves just do something to me. I hope this served you today. Back to the show.
Beautiful.
All right, Mandy, welcome back. And by the way, we got Jose is in the green room. He's our guest today.
Hi, Jose.
We're going to be learning about him, Connected Leaders Academy, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. Excuse me, Mandy. Anything else on the nature part? I mean, we could spend a good couple hours just talking about that.
It's funny that this has come up right now. A friend from the UK this morning put up a post, was, what does nature do for you? And my response was, it does everything. It's vastness, it's beauty, it's diversity. It's whether it's the wind, it's the rain, it's the snow, it's dancing with the sun, it's dancing with the moon at night under the stars. It's everything that ignites the passion of my soul. And when I'm in nature, it's as if there is nobody else around me, no other world exists, and I am completely at one with my source God energy connection. And that references what you spoke about, the electromagnetic field. When we are with our creator in his creations, not man-made material things or anything else, and we embrace the uncertainty, the unknown, the healing takes place, because that is what it is designed to do. I just live and love and breathe nature in every single day.
Absolutely. And that's what, if you're just joining us, we're highlighting Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey. We listened in on an interview. We shared 4 different segments about what we can extract from his lessons from the hero's journey. And I'll just recap them real quick. And I'm going to bring Jose on because he's familiar with this work too. I want to hear what he has to say. We talked about going into the dark places. Each person must find their own. We talked about sticking your neck out, embracing uncertainty. We talked about, again, taking that risk, that reoccurring theme of taking that risk in our lives. And then balancing the energy, not living up here all the time, embracing the other side, the unknown. So Mandy, this has been great to share.
Very.
I'm going to share the graphic one more time, and then I'm going to bring Jose on so we can chat it up here and bring this show in for a close in the next 13 minutes here. That's called, I put myself on mute. Jose, are you ready to join us?
Oh,
All right, we're ready.
that's better.
Jose, welcome to the program.
Ah,
Hello,
namaste, my
hello.
friend.
Good
Welcome.
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. I just want to say what you're doing with the Connected Leaders Academy, the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf, the founder of those two platforms, growing in leaps and bounds, attracting amazing people. I'm glad to have you on here for, a few minutes to share. And, let's start off with what do you think about this hero's journey? What you've heard so far?
So I was on another call up until about probably 30 minutes after, right? So I caught like a section of what you were saying. First of all, connecting with nature. What am I doing to connect with nature? Let me just say that is brilliant because green time for me and my family is very vital. There's all kinds of research and science that talks about the power of green time, especially for children. So I have not been giving myself enough green time and connecting with nature. So I appreciate that nudge and the reminder. That's just excellent. So that's actually my thought for Friday that I'm going to implement today. So
Great.
but in addition to what you shared, that picture there, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, I have his book handy here on my desk because, let me see, there you go. Because I'm working on now. I'm going through it in detail. I've gone through this book in different sessions with different people and bits and pieces, but I can't say I've read it cover to cover. But I understand a lot of the principles and the philosophy, and it goes back to maps of meaning, as well, which is great from Jordan Peterson. And then we have more work, Beyond Order and 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson. And a good friend of mine, actually, Chris Matakas, actually goes into this type of stuff quite a bit. He wrote this book here, Improve, as if your life depends on it. And then he also wrote this book, Hero, which talks about your path through jiu-jitsu and life. And he talks about the hero's journey, but in terms of like the jiu-jitsu martial artist, right? And I just happen to have this on my desk. Very odd.
Well, you got
Is that an innocent plug there? Yeah, that's an innocent plug. Great book on poetry, by the way.
Oh, look, I've got one too.
Yeah, just so you know, not to get too off topic, but I just ordered the book Breakthrough or Flashpoint from you, Austin, and that's in the mail.
Another great book.
So going back to Joseph Campbell, yeah, great work. He talks about the cave, right? And going into the cave and embracing what we fear, and the treasure that we seek lies in that cave. And that in itself, if you just take that one piece from Joseph Campbell's work, that is absolutely transformational and life-changing. And I know for sure for me, it was all about the unbearable present and the ideal future, right? The unbearable present and the ideal future. In order to get from point A to point B, you have to slay the dragon.
Yes.
You have to go head in on what is fearful, like the things that you fear, the things that create discomfort, the things that make you feel uneasy, the things that are challenging, right? It is important that you embrace that because that is where the treasure lies. That's where your next level lies. And I say this all the time. Imagine a circle, right? And you step outside of that circle like this and discomfort, all of a sudden your circle gets bigger.
Yes.
You can't stay there. You got to go and you got to step out again, right? And then the circle gets bigger and you have to keep stepping into faith with tremendous courage, overcoming fear. That is the process of life. And Joseph Campbell's work is brilliant, and he really goes into that whole idea that we have to embrace the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is a cycle that never ends. And it can be a vicious cycle for some, it can be a vicious cycle because we have to continuously put ourselves in discomfort and go through this beautiful stage of process like a flower that blooms, right? But, everything, it's just very exciting work. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah. I'm glad you did this today.
Yeah. And I want to invite everybody to go back. We talked about the slaying of the dragon and how the dragon scales are made up of thou shalt, which is all the rules and regulations that may not apply to you and how you're supposed to live. So in order to honor our time, we got 8 minutes left, Jose. I want to make sure we highlight you. So if you could share a little bit about I love the fact that you came right out of the gate. We're talking about the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf. And boom, it's like, hey, I walk my talk. It's like, here it is. I got the books right here. Just a great example of the way you live. So if you could just take a couple minutes and share a little bit about that, what you're working on with the Connected Leaders Academy and the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf, greatly appreciate that. And you had the book right there, so it was so cool.
Yeah, for sure. So the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf, there's a couple legs. So there's three things you can plug into essentially what I'm doing, what I'm working on, right? The first thing is a private Facebook group that's free. It's for anybody out there that's an entrepreneur. And I even accept entrepreneurs in there. And what I mean by entrepreneur is somebody who is trying to be an entrepreneur that hasn't quite become an entrepreneur, but has a full desire and has a work ethic and is doing some things in life and trying to position themselves nicely, right? But that group is primarily for entrepreneurs. It's a free private Facebook group. You can find it, search it. You got to answer like 3 questions, and then I'll accept you in there, assuming that you fall into the basic criteria. But in there, I do live videos. Ivy, good to see you. Awesome. So I do live videos. I do book reviews. I talk about different books that come in here to kind of give you more exposure to certain things. I put in memes and different things to add value to you, right? And it's just a great community. So I encourage anybody out there to come and join that community. It's called the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf private Facebook group. Good to see you, Carmen. And that's that. That's the first piece. The second piece is the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf as a company is a digital programs company. So I am launching digital programs, digital courses for entrepreneurs to help you level up and go to that next level. And we all have the next level. Even if you're doing extremely well, there's a next level to that too. Yeah. So in this particular program that I just launched in September, this is the Big Mac, I guess you could say, right? The Whopper of what I'm offering. And this is the morning and evening routine mastery program. So it's an 8-week program where there's 2 live group coaching calls with all the members. There's also 36 plus modules professionally filmed on all the moving parts of what I call the bookends of your day, right? Let me be in the camera. There we go. The bookends of your day. So how you start your day first thing in the morning, how you end your day to create maximum productivity, to get the winner's mindset, to be in the best shape of your life, hitting all 10 life domains like Michael Hyatt talks about, right? Being well-rounded, not only professionally, but also personally. So it's a great program. It's an 8-week program. By the end of the 8 weeks, you walk out with a customized morning and evening routine that's going to absolutely change your game, change your life. There's been 28 plus people that have gone through this program, and the results are phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. That's what changed my life in 2019. In that 1 year, when I committed to the morning and evening routine, I doubled my income. I lost 36 pounds. I became a better father, a better husband. My spiritual life was at an all-time high. I committed to reading a book a week that year. The list goes on and on and on, right? And that's really what kind of hit a light bulb. I said, if I can change my life in this way from some basic foundational frameworks, I can just teach other people how to do the same thing, and they'll do that. And it's been happening. So that's the second leg of my business. The third piece that just launched literally a little over 3 weeks ago, almost a month now, is the Connected Leaders Academy. And the Connected Leaders Academy is a membership program. It's under the umbrella of the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf, but it's a separate entity, if you will. And what that is, it's a membership for entrepreneurs. So I created a hub, a tribe, a family under one umbrella, right? Called the Connected Leaders Academy. And what I've done is I've hand-selected a number of entrepreneurs, high-level movers and shakers, titans of industry, high performers that I knew, because I pride myself in always connecting. I'm always networking. I'm always meeting people, right? And so I brought all these people because I realized like they don't know each other. A lot of these people do not know each other, and they all have their own networks and their own circles. So I brought them all hand-selected, right? And naturally, by default, there's a buzz, and people are now inquiring, and all these other people started reaching out to me saying, hey, I'm interested. What is this all about? But the whole idea why people are joining this membership program is because they're going to grow personally and professionally. They're going to develop future new skill sets and sharpen the ones they already have. They're going to grow more influence. They're going to scale their businesses and take their business in terms of profit.
Hey, I got to jump in for time. I'm going to have you back on. We'll have you back on the show as a guest sometime. So I have like 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes left of the show. And I'm so excited that you're coming to the event in March. We had a conversation. If you want to be in a documentary, you want to be highlighted at the event we're doing here, we can get you there. But just a couple minutes on that, because you're part of our ACT program now. And
Absolutely. So in terms of March 25th to the 27th, I believe those are the dates, right? And that's coincidentally, it lands on the 10X Grant Cardone weekend, which I had tickets for that. But let me tell you something. I am not going to the Grant Cardone event. I'm going to catch the replay somehow because I chose to be in the backyard of Austin Haynes in New Jersey, Cherry Hill, for this event because I understand what he's putting together. I understand the value of connection, the value of being around like-minded people, especially those who are seeking a breakthrough. And that's really what I'm all about. I'm all about breakthrough. I'm all about connecting and expanding my circle and reaching that next level. So I know that when I'm there that weekend, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to learn some things. I'm going to level up. I'm going to make connections, you name it. So that's what I'm excited about, being a part of your program too, the ACT program. Your accountability calls every other week are amazing with some top-notch people there too. So I'm excited about that big time.
So what I'm going to do, yeah, and we're just honored to have you. I mean, that speaks volumes about you and the way you operate. It just says so much about you. And it's hard to compete with Grant Cardone, but
yeah,
everybody has their sweet spot. Everybody has their own path. So if you want to get involved, there's a link here. But I would just say we could just have a chat. I mean, we could just have a chatwithaustin.com, chatwithaustin.com. You book 15 minutes. And we just have a conversation. Like, let's just have a conversation, because what I found, Jose, you know this, conversations are the catalyst for transformation. It's that just reaching out and having a conversation with somebody, it'll change you that day. Like what we're doing right now is going to change. It just changed your day. You're changing my day. We're all changing each other, right? If we're conscious, we're doing it for the better. So I'm excited to have you at the event. Mandy, it's 12:59.
Quick.
We can go a couple minutes. We can maybe go to a minute over, but go ahead.
Quick. Okay, so the hero's journey is basically an adventure where you learn lessons, you win a victory, you go home completely transformed. So each person is on a separate journey. It's a unique journey, and it's a gift of breaking through to become who we really are, like a seed that breaches the surface of the soil to become the plant or the tree. Change is possible. We can overcome great adversity, fears, and doubt, which will in turn affect the world and shows them that we never give up. It allows for personal development and growth. And as Jose so aptly, beautifully brought out, we've stepped outside of that circle, outside of our comfort zone. We've become uneasy with uneasiness. The circle grows, the lesson evolves, and we become more empowered to serve the world. And when we come from here, the heart-centered place, and serve the world for others, then our life just exponentially grows in all kinds of ways. Namaste to both of you. It's been a pleasure being here.
Passionately, if you're painfully aware that you want to change, connect. If you're passionately on purpose and you want to level up, connect. Painfully aware, passionately on purpose, take a step. This is Austin. This is Flashpoint. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everyone. Love and hugs.